Salutations all, season's greetings and the whole shebang-a-bang. This is Juiciest Slice, here to discuss another weird but holly jolly picture, one that received a spate of hate upon release, but has emerged as a perennial Yuletide horror classic. A flick that's ad campaign got the whole moral majority up in arms.
When angry parents picketed theaters where it played, and the critics took offense.
The one and only. I mean, it's not like some of the sequels use extensive portions of the original to fill out their runtimes.
Oh, it's great. It's about this guy who dresses up like Santa Claus and kills people.
What?
Silent Night, Deadly Night. Thank you to anyone taking the time to check this out. I deeply appreciate it. Pfft, as you should. Walking barefoot on gravel would be a better use of time. Okay, who are you? Your alter ego. You know, the part of you that isn't a total wipe. Shows what you know. No part of me isn't a total wipe, and I think you'll prove that. So what do you get when you cross an emotionally damaged child living the worst life possible with a terrible understanding of morals on a holiday, who grows up to perpetrate a killing spree on said holiday? Drek? In recent years you get the Halloween remake, but if you look back to the Greed decade, you get one of the most unjustly controversial films of the 1980s, the unforgettable Christmas-themed nightmare, Sleigh Ride, aka Silent Night, Deadly Night. So get out the tinsel, thoroughly spiked eggnog, a candy cane or two, your double-headed axe, and your most traumatic childhood memories as we join Billy. No, not that Billy, though I'll probably be talking about him next year. The Billy in this tale seems to be pursued around every turn by the rottenest luck, starting on a fateful Christmas when his whole life is shattered, almost as if the poor lad's cursed. Not going to lie or prevaricate, this film reflects a dark, downtrodden, and rather nihilistic worldview, where nothing works out for anybody, and defilement waits around every turn. But don't worry, it's still quite a bit of fun.
Well, I'm sincerely glad to hear that, for all our sakes.
Since the sequel is a rehash of almost the entirety of the first film, that claim is only slightly hyperbolic, held together by a bookending device. I will also speak on that one since Billy's experiences are shared by his little brother Ricky.
Here it comes.
And they both emerge from the dumpster fire of their childhoods primed to be unmitigatingly brutal spree killers. Just be honest, these movies are trashy, tendentious, trivial, thoroughly tasteless travesties. Tripe also springs to mind. Alliteration, cool. Capably directed by Charles E. Sellier Jr., known mostly for his work on Grizzly Adams. The first film's screenplay was written by Michael Hickey from a single line taken from a story by Paul Kamey, and produced by Scott J. Schneid, Ira Richard Barmack, and Dennis Whitehead. The film stars the one and only Robert Brian Wilson as adult Billy Chapman, one of the friendliest brutal killers you're likely to find. Jonathan Best,
What time does Santa Claus come?
Not until...
and Danny Wagner respectively,
But you will be. You will learn what it is to be sorry.
as younger versions of Billy, both of whom give tremendous performances, especially the latter, who emotes so well it's impossible not to feel for the kid. Jeff Hansen,
I'm gonna be at Grandpa's pretty soon.
as Jim Chapman, Billy's doomed dad, Tara Buckman,
Santa Claus is gonna bring you a big surprise tonight.
as Ellie Chapman, Billy's even more doomed mom, Pa Peabody himself,
That you mutated son of a bitch!
Will Hare, as cracked Grandpa Chapman, lifelong member of the Actors Studio, Charles Deerkop,
I'm holding you up, asshole!
as the dastardly killer Santa, an actress who had a long distinguished career, Lillian Chauvin.
I am not interested in what you think.
Fine then, as the bitchiest, witchiest, grinchiest, saltiest, grouchiest mother superior ever and the catalyst of everything. Stage and screen actress Gilmer McCormick,
What I've been saying, that it's all still inside him.
as Sister Margaret, a rare advocate and ray of sunshine for Billy, longtime character actor Britt Leach,
I'm always happy to help the church, sister.
as Mr. Sims, Billy's toy store boss, eye-catching Tony Nero, as Pamela, Billy's co-worker for whom he gains an attraction, Randy Stumpf,
Oh, Well, excuse me, Ann Landers.
as Andy, another coworker who crosses Billy, and she was in Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers and played Trash in Return of the Living Dead. What higher credentials are there? The incomparable scream queen, Linnea Quigley,
You don't go back to bed. Santa won't come.
He's not the only one.
as Denise, recipient of perhaps the film's most standout kill, and that's saying something. The second film was edited and directed by Lee Harvey, the man tasked originally with recutting the first film into a new product, who instead used the minuscule budget to craft the continuing tale of Ricky,
Yeah?
something for which I am eternally grateful,
I feel sorry for you.
because Silent Deadly Night Part 2 is one of those so bad it's good movies that is always entertaining, with a scene so famous it's become an enduring meme.
Garbage day! No!
Lawrence Applebaum produced and participated in crafting the story with Harry, Joseph H. Earl, and Dennis Patterson. Harry and Earl wrote the screenplay. The film stars the brilliantly over-the-top Eric Freeman
But hey, that's life.
as devilishly addle-pated adult Ricky, voice actor Daryl Gilbo
Naughty.
as teenage Billy, the attention-grabbing Elizabeth Kalin as Jennifer Statson, Ricky's unfortunate girlfriend. He made $150 to play the role, James L. Newman,
Or if you would feel more comfortable, you can just call me Doc.
as the too comfortable in the presence of psychos for his own good Dr. Henry Bloom,
You can leave now.
Now,
fitness trainer and one-time acting teacher Ken Weichert
guess who?
as Chip, Jennifer's obnoxious ex, and incredibly long-lived actress Jean Miller
Mother Superior!
as the recast Mother Superior, now horribly deformed from a stroke, which is quite medically inaccurate, but that isn't for me to quibble about right now. What, you're suddenly a doctor? Isn't the holiday season grand, majestic, rapturous even? The magic of all the bright blinking lights, delightful decorations, good cheer, delicious goodies, jingle bells, and visits to relatives? When people like you don't ruin it, it's your kind why there's a war on Christmas. All those things I mentioned are all well and good unless it means visiting deranged Grandpa Chapman. I'm guessing inappropriate behavior got him put in the asylum. That's not very sensitive. Sanitarium? Pfft. Okay, mental facility. Why do I even bother? Oh, come on, that's literally what it's called in the movie. Gramps is a supposed catatonic, but he's obviously playing with a few more cards in his deck than everyone thinks,
He doesn't hear us, honey. He doesn't even know we're here.
because it seems a little convenient how quickly a man not in his right mind regains clarity
Mom!
when left alone with his grandson. Suggesting his faculties being on the fritz is quite deceptive.
Don't worry. Grandpa's not gonna hurt you.
Poor Billy's brief time alone with this old kook proves a bad omen,
What you want her for? She can't help you. Nobody can.
the old man manages to misinform and warp this poor kid in record time,
Scared, ain't you? You should be.
laying out a whole cavalcade of fears,
Santa Claus only brings presents to them that's been good all year.
long-lasting misconceptions,
All the naughty ones. He punishes.
and plain wrong-headed thinking.
You've been good all year.
Although strangely, this warning
You see Santa Claus tonight. You better run, boy.
proves wise and maybe saves Billy's life. After making this delightful childhood memory, where coincidence meets synchronicity, a brazen, gun-toting, murderous lunatic on a crime spree conveniently dressed as Santa Claus manages to flag down the Chapman family on an isolated country road. Exemplifying every child's deepest fear, that of parental failure, Dad gets himself quickly dispatched and and Kris Kringle's evil doppelganger has his way with Mom in brutal fashion before sending her to the angels as well. Life appallingly ripped apart at the seams in a span of a few minutes. Having witnessed everything, Billy is left shattered and all but alone.
No kidding.
When some boundaries are crossed, it's irrevocable, and this heartbreaking crime seems to light a very long fuse that will take the rest of his childhood to burn down to a powder keg stuffed with fury and strapped to his back. The whole time, more fuel being added with every negative event and dose of mistreatment that befalls him. That's such a labored analogy, I think I need an over-the-counter pain reliever. Billy and his infant brother miraculously survive, but it means going to a draconian Catholic orphanage, run by a Mother Superior out to instill a firm, depressing outlook by deeming everything under the sun and in the shade. This woman makes a pre-reformed Scrooge seem like a jocular fellow.
When we do something naughty, we are always caught. And then we are punished.
I would go so far as to call her the real villain of the picture.
Punishment is absolute. Punishment is necessary.
Her cruelness in the name of discipline seems boundless, and her unkind treatment of Billy is maybe even more warping than bearing witness to his parents' murder. Having obviously received no therapy, when tasked with coming up with a holiday image, Billy puts his trauma to paper, which elicits sympathy from Sister Margaret, and an excuse for Mother Superior to create a strict regiment of mistreatment.
And if he has received proper training, he will know how to cope with it.
As I assume that's what she means by proper training. Billy inadvertently winds up learning about sex and voyeurism when drawn to a keyhole by the sounds of fooling around.
Ah, hey, peeping Tom, eh? So sorry.
And it means a swift, harsh punishment for all involved. The whole escapade, all mixed up with memories of his mom's besmirching, seems to add to his deep confusion relating to sex, which will play a key role later.
Oh, Lord.
The poor kid can't even sleep without nightmares of ghastly memories infiltrating his mind, necessitating he try to escape. Which only results in more cruelty.
Please let me up.
Forced by Mother Superior, Billy is consistently confronted by situations that give him no choice other than to act out.
What the hell's wrong with that kid?
Confronting a greatest fear only works if the one facing down their terror feels secure and safe, which Billy most certainly does not. Can he be blamed for bloodying Santa's nose? Wow, warped much? Violence is never acceptable. If there was ever a time he deserved the broadside of a paddle, it was then. A decade passes, and after suffering his formative years in the orphanage gulag, Billy shows that from tiny acorns mighty oaks grow, by developing into a strapping, handsome, seemingly well-adjusted young man. He wears a big dopey smile, likely elated to be free of Mother Superior's excruciating grasp and strict bondage. Now freed, Billy isn't as trepidatious about the real world as one might suspect, demonstrating part of him is really ready to get on with his life. Sister Margaret helps him acquire a stockboy position in a toy store, and he proves a willing and capable worker.
The warm side of the door, where the fire's bright.
Even showing pride in the job.
Everybody will be there.
When Andy attempts to get him to bend his elbow, Billy shows he's a good boy who instead of liquor drinks his milk.
Who's there on the warm side of the door?
On the straight and narrow, everything seemingly turned around for Billy. Things are looking up for the young man who watched a deranged Santa kill his parents. He's turned a new leaf and is getting a well-deserved fresh start. Only this is the kind of fairy tale world the Grimm's brothers would have written about, and that's where this film gets even weirder. Soon the past trauma is being rubbed in his face again. Trouble starting with the oncoming holiday season.
There's always people who love you.
confronts him in a threatening manner for his distraction.
And I'm gonna level with you. When you came here a couple of months ago, you were an alright kid. But all of a sudden, you got this fucking attitude problem.
Which is kind of funny because it's pretty obvious Billy could twist him into a pretzel. In the short time he's been out, Billy's developed a crush on coworker Pamela, so much so she appears in sexy dreams that devolve into nightmares. Showing how even though he desires a normal life, the emotional damage, intertwined with sexual awakening, is an ever-present vexation causing him deep confusion and fear, and he is no more put together than the broken child he used to be.
I want to be good.
It's been naughty. I'm sorry.
Don't punish me.
Seems the commingling of sex and punishment really did a number on poor Billy's young psyche, and led to ongoing bewilderment, and not just over strange BDSM fantasies he doesn't understand. In fact, his fantasies seem to concern love and acceptance rather than perversion, yet due to his indoctrination, all sex is construed as
Very, very naughty.
a real team player. Billy proves maybe a little too accommodating
Anything you want, you just tell me what it is and I'll be glad to help out.
when he winds up tasked with being the store Santa.
Take a closer look at yourself in the mirror, Billy. And just remember, be jolly.
Way to allocate, Mr. Sims. Methinks he was a little too focused on getting to the after party.
It's over! Time to get shit-faced!
Billy misunderstands this assignment to mean it will become incumbent upon him to judge who's naughty and nice, and dish out punishment accordingly. Even with innocent children, Billy takes the task of portraying Santa uber seriously.
I don't bring toys to naughty children. I punish them severely.
No one around seems to understand he's a kettle about to come to a roiling boil, a bomb about to explode, that a very long fuse is about to reach a powder keg full of years of built-up fury. They only see a young man being seemingly good with children.
Knows how to handle kids. He's great, isn't he?
It's like he doesn't want to hurt the little girl, but as he understands the situation, her actions could necessitate punitive action. The after-hours Christmas party kicks off.
Merry Christmas, Helen. How about a cheap thrill?
And soon Billy is imbibing an alcoholic beverage. And getting told,
By the time this party's over, you'll think you are Santa Claus.
none of which bodes well. Truly heartbreaking, Billy watches as Andy waltzes away with Pamela to the back room.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year!
A conversation soon occurs between an inebriated Mr. Sims and a dejected Billy. Eyes moist with thug tears, Billy confides he's thinking about his parents who are dead. Mr. Sim chooses the worst way to change the subject.
Hey, Santa! Santa, you better sober up. You got a long night ahead of you.
And maybe pushes a final peg into a slot.
Do you remember what Santa Claus does on Christmas Eve, don't you?
Yeah, I know what he does.
Pamela isn't so keen on Andy's advances, and Billy arrives to him getting a little over-aggressive. Pamela responds with a swift slap, and Andy looms in to teach her a lesson with his penis. Witnessing such a thing brings it all crashing back, and that long fuse finally reaches the barrel of gunpowder and Billy detonates, exploding like Reggie's house in Phantasm 2. Having hit the point that brutally slaughtering those he deems naughty is the only natural recourse. Andy learns it's never a good idea to cross a guy who can hang you with his bare hands. Then unfortunate Pamela, the victim of a love triangle she didn't even know she was in, gets opened up like a fish on a fillet board.
Punishment is necessary, Pamela. It is.
Even if I have trouble with them, just bear with me. Maybe there's a reason for safety razors.
What do you think?
This is where the film gets fun as we follow Billy as he murders his way back to the orphanage. Fun? For someone who needs serious help, maybe. Did your mother have any kids who lived? For the uninitiated and squeamish, the whole oncoming sequence is a display of overindulgent carnage. As Billy clears out the party, faster than the Breakfast Club soundtrack, once underway, there's no waffling. He's committed. And from the massacre in the toy store, Billy bursts into the world to wreak havoc, viciously murdering beautiful babysitter Denise in particularly atrocious fashion.
Punish! Punish! Punish!
The brutish penetration likely because she was on the cusp of getting some. And of course to Billy that's
Very naughty.
also on the verge of sex. Her bow goes down next, only not in the way he had anticipated.
Punish!
Billy gives the third degree to the adorable little girl being babysat.
You haven't done anything naughty.
No, Santa Claus.
If he stabs that little girl, I swear I'll raise a demonstration and we'll picket until all the riffraff like you are chased back under the rocks from whence you came. Good luck with that. When he deems her truthful, he very considerately gifts her what's a great piece of priceless serial killer memorabilia. In the form of the blood-soaked box cutter he used to teach Pamela a valuable but wasted lesson. Meanwhile, Sister Margaret discovers the bloodbath and alerts authorities. Morning dawns. A policeman heads towards the orphanage, only to come upon a Santa making a beeline towards the orphans. He jumps into action. Deaf as a doornail, Father O'Brien learns the hard way no good deed goes unpunished, when right in front of the little kiddies he shot down. Proving God has a dark sense of humor, which I suppose was accomplished with the Old Testament. That is not only in bad taste, but blasphemous. Blasphemous, sir. I hope you're proud of yourself. There is nothing in the Bible that isn't perfectly understandable. Next you'll say it's riddled with contradictions. That's a can of worms I'm not opening. Anyway, a little retribution for his shoot first, ask questions later mentality.
Punish!
The officer soon falls prey to Billy. Next, our irreparable boy in the body of a man gets in the orphanage proper, and about to show Mother Superior his axing prowess, he's also shot in the back. So in a tragic case of failure to launch, Billy's story ends in a hail of bullets, his final declaration palpably bringing home the tragedy of it all.
You're safe now. Santa Claus is gone.
Despite Mother Superior's despicable actions and inactions being the true catalyst of his murderous rampage, this curmudgeonly crone has zero sympathy even at the end. It was like she thought she had no skin in the game. This assumption will cost her in the end when Ricky catches up to her down the line as the story shifts to him.
Naughty.
The second film picks up with Ricky telling his story to Dr. Bloom, requiring so much footage from the first film they should never be watched back to back. You mean we have to sit through a bunch of this again? What in your film taste qualifies you to speak on any of this? You're welcome to leave. Of course not. After Billy's death, Ricky explains how he was smartly placed in a Jewish foster home not subjected to Christmas. But it was too late. It becomes clear he's a real irascible sort with a fly-off-the-handle temper, evidently a lifelong trait. After the death of his foster father, outside antagonism set off his anger, which led to murderous acts that could be construed as vigilantism. And even elicited appreciation.
Thank you.
The next time he killed was really Boffo.
What are you looking at, kid?
One of those unrealistic but standout kills. And one fateful day, Ricky rode up on his hog and met the lovely Jennifer.
One day, we just bumped into each other.
But let's take a moment to comment on how Ricky looks like he's on his way to an audition for a role in the long-awaited sequel to Werewolves on Wheels. I know in the 1980s nostalgia led to a revival of 50s styles, but I have to wonder whom thought this was a good look for Ricky. Maybe commentary on how he stunted. Well, I guess I'm an idiot. Finally something I can agree with. Because within the story it worked. Jennifer took an immediate shine to him. Love or lust a mini splendid thing. A whirlwind courtship of 0 words, but plenty of humping, swept Ricky along. But anger issues persisted, especially when Jennifer's insufferable ex showed up and with a few words sent him careening off the deep end.
This is what you ended up with? If I'd known you'd sink this low, I never would have dumped you.
Learning his lady love's purity wasn't as intact as he assumed, disenchantment takes hold, and Ricky makes Chip pay. Chip is one of those horror movie characters that beg to be killed.
When I fucked her brains out in the backseat of old Red here.
And exist only for the audience to revel in the big moment.
Falling for me again, huh? And you...
I'm not going to vouch for the validity of this kill. But it's outrageous in a really fun way. More like impractical, disgusting, and dumb. This signaled the end of Ricky's relationship with Jennifer.
What are you doing? Killed him! I hate you, Ricky! I hate you!
Quite humorously, she instantly recognized her mistake.
Punish!
Uh-oh.
Not fast enough to elude him, Jennifer fell prey to Ricky's worst instincts when his unrelenting rage pushed him to kill the object of his affection. Who dared to love a 50s greaser with a face more wont to sneer than smile? Of course, the most underheaded cop imaginable witnessed the heinous act and attempted to take Ricky into custody. Not that such a thing should really be deemed funny, but let me guess, you find it funny. Ricky disarmed the police officer in another very humorous bit of business.
I know how to use this.
Slingshot from there into perhaps the funniest murder spree in the history of film. He's an unhinged madman making his way down a residential street. Cackling at and killing. I swear on everything holy, if he shoots that little girl, Pope Francis will be made aware.
Excuse me, mister.
That's okay.
Almost everyone he encountered, until he got to the big one. The line that plucked this movie from obscurity and granted it pop culture relevance.
Garbage day! Huh? No!
When all was said and done, he resolved to take the easy way out only to prove short on bullets. Following this series of flashbacks, sheesh, even a lot of the new material was used as flashback, it's revealed Ricky gave Dr. Bloom the...
You only wanted to help. I appreciate the effort, though.
the old heave-ho from the mortal coil.
But between you and me, Doc,
and made his escape, acquiring a Santa suit the only way a cheerful fella like him knows how.
Well, hello there, big fella. How'd you like to give a little something to Santa?
And fulfilling the destiny bestowed upon him by bad circumstances by returning to the orphanage to hunt down Mother Superior.
Santa's back!
The ancient Biddy, now reflecting her inner ugliness in her deformed face, is as indignant as ever.
Richard, you are weak, just like your brother. You must be punished.
Now you're insulting an old woman? Wow, you're special. Not at all. For a supposedly frail old woman in a wheelchair, she's still tough as nails and feisty as all get out, and commendably leads Ricky on a merry chase.
That was close.
Even tumbling down some stairs, only to have another wheelchair on hand. Making me wonder if she was training for the Paralympics all along, because damn! There's only so far she can get, though, before revenge is had.
You are being very, very naughty.
Naughty this!
And the axe wins out. One final scare, Ricky springs up and, like Billy before him, is shot down. Only unlike his brother, he survives. The chain of abuse unbroken, the evil ongoing.
Too bad.
So if anything, what was the rough and tumble Silent Night, Deadly Night, and by extension the sequel, getting at in its offensive, jarring, and brutal way?
You really want to know?
As I pointed out earlier, the moral majority was too sensitive to handle a killer Santa Claus. Not like in the past there hadn't already been two fairly prominent murderous Santas, one in Tales from the Crypt 1972, and one in Christmas Evil 1980.
Something for you.
I have superlative taste.
Not to mention the even more on-the-nose slasher variant from 1980, To All a Good Night. Directed by David Hess, Krug from Last House on the Left, that film not only has one, but a pair of Deadly Santas.
Kill my baby.
Should have killed you first.
Infuriating parents who felt their delicate little snowflakes couldn't take a negative depiction of old Saint Nick, the kids of the EC Comics era must have been emotionally stronger, I guess, was one of the worst ideas ever, right up there with New Coke, because it was a rare instance when it was proven not all press is good press. Gee, not like Common Decency was a tip-off. I've let you carry on, but what's your problem? No problem here. Then kindly keep your yap shut. I have a right to open my yap as much as I want. It's called freedom of speech, buddy. And because I know that, I fall into the top 1% of patriots. Weren't you just arguing for censorship? Isn't this video getting long enough without quarreling with me? You have a point there, but keep it to a minimum. Patience is my virtue, and you're trying my virtue. Emboldened by the public scorn, critics had a field day reviling and lambasting the film, basically going after it like a piñata, as if they thought they could bash it open and piles of social justice would pour out. You think you're clever, don't you? You're really just a disturbed individual espousing whatever's flying around the vacant space in your head. Virtue? In reality, they were probably hypocrites who used it to boost their ratings.
A lot of it's genuine greed.
Since the way to make a film go away is to ignore it, and by being so vocal they achieved the Streisand effect years before that phrase was even coined. Because the film initially did big business. That confirms it. Leonard Maltin condemned it as a worthless splatter film, and made what I consider a dubious connection when he pondered, what's next, the Easter Bunny as a child molester? In his Los Angeles Times review, Michael Wilmington got real hyperbolic, writing, "It's safe to predict that Silent Night, Deadly Night will start making worst movie of all time lists almost immediately." Gene Siskel, a pickle if there ever was one, went so far as to rag the production with a haughty "shame on you," before suggesting,
"Your profits truly are blood money."
It all added up to the distributors pulling up stakes and running for the hills. This is an instance that goes to show how an advertising campaign can inadvertently torpedo a film even after getting it lots of business. Was the hatchet job at all deserved? Not really, no. If anything, what should have been the source of discourse was the utter condemnation of institutions, from governmental to religious.
They were naughty.
Billy and Ricky are failed on every level and clearly got a short shift in life. My gram, rest her soul, always said life wasn't fair, but the unfairness heaped on these two boys is monumental. For much of their childhood, they are powerless in the face of agonizing turmoil, loss, suppression, and mistreatment, only to age out of the system. So is it any wonder that the potential was there to totally lose it and go berserk? The bullied and repressed can only stay under the thumb so long before some precipitator unlocks the shackles and the thumb gets shucked aside.
No more punishment.
Billy was a nice kid who under different circumstances likely would have grown into a kind, valiant, and helpful young man, even a pillar of the community. Since all the trauma and suffering plus some is mirrored in Ricky, he developed into a far ruder and cruder young man, having gone through witnessing the death of Billy and the villainous actions of his brother being projected on him, and emerges as the more psychotic of the two, someone who takes sadistic pleasure from killing.
Well, what makes you think you can bullshit your way into my head?
The biggest difference between the brothers is that moral crusader Billy didn't seem to be spoiling for a fight, whereas diabolic Ricky seemed to have a chip on his shoulder the size of the national deficit, and was quick to get a retaliation hard-on at the smallest provocation.
You know, I don't like your attitude.
All a reflection of the even more profound trauma he endured, which seemed to sour him worse than a gallon of milk left in the fridge for a month past the expiration date. It takes a troubled man to keep bringing something wholesome like milk into this. I'm ignoring you. Neither brother had much chance in the real world because they were never taught how to handle their emotions. Hot-headed, easily offended, incorrigible Ricky is the worst of the two, more caustic and corrosive in general. So I don't know if the same could be said of him. Odds are he never would have become a respectable citizen. Yet even if he were a rebellious a-hole who never helped another soul, that didn't mean he had to be a murderer. But since there was a template, an excuse to go in that heinous direction, he followed Billy straight off the cliff. Violence begets violence and is as contagious as any bug. Children emulate what they see. Any bad behavior, really, cruelness included. Were Billy's actions avoidable? In 100 different ways. Only anyone with real power over him cared not one iota about his psychology or well-being. It isn't as if he was a bad kid deserving of punishment.
Punishment is good.
Yes, Mother Superior.
What he needed was a lot of care and hugs and reassurances.
Oh, Billy.
That's just twisted. So sue me, I thought a little levity would lighten the mood. I have a whole team of high-priced lawyers on retainer, so don't tempt me. Were even a small amount of sympathy applied, simple understanding, Billy likely would have responded positively and had a far greater chance to integrate into society. Sister Margaret recognized what Billy needed, but in the end was of little help, stifled in acting properly by a malicious Mother Superior. Through inaction and despite her well-meaning, happenstance sadly makes her in some way guilty of Billy and Ricky's abuse too. Although it could be argued that since she was subject to a hierarchy, she had no choice other than to knuckle under. I personally couldn't bear to witness such treatment without doing something about it.
Too many people get away with shit like that.
The saddest aspect might be that Billy started out in a nice, stable home, only to have the rug pulled out from under him by one horrifying act of random violence. Is it any wonder after a lifetime of being the recipient that upon snapping, he became the dealer of horrifying random acts? It goes to show that the upbringing puppeteered by Mother Superior stripped him of much of his greater humanity, because for much of his spree he's blind to the fact that by brutalizing others, he's no better than the rampaging Santa that destroyed his family. But by the time he broke completely, it didn't matter. His belief system was too skewed. All he cared about was writing a cosmic scale he had no real understanding of except to know it weighed against him far too long, and time had come to even things out by punishing those he deemed naughty, even if it was unfair, as it was unfair when he was unjustly punished for supposed rather than legitimate naughtiness. It's hard to learn a lesson when the consequences weren't warranted in the first place. One of those rare horror films with amusing highs alongside shocking lows, it puts the notion of a society out of whack on full display, most notably in how it depicts Billy passing judgment. After many warped lessons in his short life, it's vital to realize Billy never got the chance to properly calibrate his moral barometer, and as a result has a disproportional sense of justice and righteousness. There is no nuance, no objectivity, no discretion. One sin is equal to all others.
Mobsters beating up a shopkeeper for protection money. Very naughty. Shopkeepers not paying their protection money. Exactly as naughty.
This black and white approach makes him a poor arbiter because he has no way to differentiate degree or severity. Since not all crimes or sins are created equal, the instant he began killing indiscriminately, he lost whatever perspective he might have had. The brothers did possess some moral compass, condemning rape, only they had no trouble sometimes lumping in victims as naughty too, displaying a tremendous confusion over sex. But then in this wonky world, sexual dynamics are always skewed. For instance, the second a woman proves unaccommodating to a male's wants, he forces himself upon her, whether a date, boyfriend, or psychopathic stranger. This sense of wonkiness extends deep into the psychology of both brothers, and manifests in their actions. Billy likely died a virgin, incapable of making a connection, so to speak, because he was too mentally damaged to overcome the deep-seated negative impression of sex. Freud would probably say all his problems stemmed from never being able to overcome his extremely unhealthy introduction to sex. This likely being due to Mother Superior, who instead of explaining that what the frisky couple was up to was an act of love reserved for married couples for purposes of procreation, the Catholic stance, reinforced a profoundly negative viewpoint by making it clear no matter what, sex is bad, bad, bad.
You're getting real close.
Which means even when he's attracted to a woman in a healthy way, he can't help but see it as a horrifying thing. This stunting obviously affected his ability to woo women in any capacity. Handsome, friendly guy that he was, it seems quite obvious had he pursued Pamela she would have been open to his advances. Instead, he's so afraid of his prurient desires he has to swallow a bitter pill when Andy swoops in. I wouldn't be surprised if jealousy factored into his spree. Ricky managed to instigate a connection.
Jennifer. She's the only thing I ever cared about.
But a relationship just seemed to signal more problems for him. Revealing his antiquated views of sexuality and inability to cope with a liberated woman. The expectation of a beautiful woman being a virgin is quixotic at best. Attractive young people find like, and bunny's going to bunny. In this case, jealousy is absolutely an issue. Overall, he's too immature for sex. That became painfully obvious at the first sign of confrontation, even when the cute young lady he's going to bed with reinforces his machismo and manhood.
Faggot!
Well, we know that's not true.
His emotions get the better of him, and he has to strike back.
You got a problem, pal?
Punish. Shh. Naughty.
Since this malarkey gives Chip a chance to reconnect with Jennifer, had she been open to monkey branching back to her ex, Ricky's macho BS gave her the opportunity. He's lucky she had no interest in returning to Chip.
I would rather die before I go out with you again.
What are you trying to say?
Or he would have come back to his seat and she would have been gone. All things considered, that might have been for the best. Absorbing an insult isn't reason to beat the hell out of someone. The appearance of a loathsome ex isn't an excuse to commit murder. But when all is said and done, the intense satisfaction he received from such actions was more gratifying to Ricky than making love with Jennifer, demonstrating the extremity of his brokenness, how it overrides all sense, and makes him an unhinged monster.
I said, that's enough.
A lot has been made of the apparent attack on Catholicism, some going so far as to feel that would have been a better target for criticism than the concept of a killer Santa. It's easy to see it that way, what with the Dungeon Master Mother Superior and all, But I think Catholics aren't what is being targeted specifically so much as corrupt adults in positions of power over children in general, and Catholicism is incidental. Director Sellier himself called it a device. A nun-run orphanage is a convenient setting, but it could have been an orphanage operated by any intolerant, morally skewed, unreasonable, tyrannical, and sadistic disciplinarian. And if the Mother Superior were an accurate depiction of a living person, I would say any negative backlash against Catholics who act in such a cruel and unforgiving manner would be deserved, as it would be deserved by anyone doing those things. But I don't think she was ever meant to be more than a caricature of what she represents, an unforgivable figurehead to be the focus for Billy's rage. There needed to be the one, the POS who did the relevant damage, who sculpted him into a spree killer.
Our Billy wasn't born a criminal. He was made one through years of systematic abuse.
That the sequel fulfills what Billy failed to accomplish suggests that Mr. Harry saw it as audience wish fulfillment.
Mother Superior, are you all right?
I find it a satisfying conclusion. Why am I not surprised? In final analysis, Silent Night, Deadly Night chronicles Billy's odyssey in the most tragic terms possible, and in so doing reveals how even the most vile, awful people might just have some events in their past that don't justify their actions, but in some way explain them. Like a bobsled down an ice track, the events of Billy's life made it so once he was going, all that could be done was to ride it out to the bitter end, and it ensured Ricky was predestined to follow in his path. Despite it all, I feel sympathetic for the pair. When the equation that adds up to axe-wielding maniacs includes horribly traumatic events and ongoing mental and emotional abuse, it's hard for me not to have some consideration even though the quote-unquote bad guys were transformed into total monsters.
I'm funny that way.
Was Billy irredeemable? After all that, kind of. But had he not been killed, while serving multiple life sentences, he probably would have been the nicest guy in the yard, earned multiple degrees, and become a born-again Christian with beaming referrals from the prison chaplain the parole board would never take under advisement. Less to do with Billy not being rehabilitated than the notoriety of his crimes. As for Ricky, I have no doubt he would have been something of an abrasive jerk no matter what.
Eat shit.
But had Billy not created such a dark legacy, a mantle for him to take on as it were, he might have lived a relatively decent life too. Although, had he survived his spree and gone into general population in prison, his attitude almost certainly would have got him shivved in short order. He did technically survive, but I feel the first two films are perfect companion pieces and that part 3 is a particularly hairy, superfluous third nipple that can be excised without incident. Bill Moseley suffered much indignity portraying this version of Ricky.
Normal.
The film might also have something to say about childhood misconceptions and the deceptions adults perpetrate against children. Santa Claus himself is a lie parental units seed and grow. A deception meant to bring joy, but a deception all the same.
Really, you don't like Santa Claus?
I took the dishonesty hard because I felt lied to and that was a bad feeling. I'm not saying the Santa deception is altogether bad since most children seem to come through the whole revelation fine and don't have everlasting trust issues with their parents. It's just in my case it really struck a dissonant chord that's chilling note reverberates to this day. But that's mostly because I'm melodramatic. I've been described as a bit of an Eeyore too.
Sure is a cheerful color. Guess I'll have to get used to it.
So don't take any of what I say too seriously.
I'll always be the one that makes everybody sad and a little bored.
I actually played
Santa Claus
1 year over a decade ago when a particularly bad sickness was going around and the Lions Club needed someone to step up. I'm surprised you're allowed around people, let alone children. Kind of an amazing experience, it gave me a different perspective. Some of the children were so happy, so elated, though others were terrified.
And what do you want for Christmas, Billy? A toy truck! Get him off my lap! Who's with the Bye, Billy! Ho, ho, ho!
Holy crap, another bad Santa experience in Billy's past? Oh wait, wrong movie. One little girl hopped on my lap and said, "I missed you, Santa," so joyously it melted my heart. Let it be said, putting on the suit didn't lead me to picking up the axe, but as this picture attests, I did find a victim I dragged back to my lair, Luckily, Stockholm Syndrome eventually set in. Has anyone looked into if that woman's okay? Has anyone checked the missing persons database? Is Silent Night, Deadly Night worth a watch? I would say a big fat no. Why I ought to? You know what? I'm almost to the end. I'm just going on. I would recommend it as an interesting curiosity that stirred up so many uncalled for angry dervishes it was swept away on a surge of misplaced indignant righteousness and virtue signaling. Actually, maybe watch part 2. You get most of the pertinent points in Ricky's classic ruthless bad boy antics.
Garbage day!
I never get tired of that. Bless you, Eric Freeman, wherever you are. I don't know if anybody has ever been more deserving of being snubbed by the Razzies. Well, I think I've reached the end of the rope, so I won't leave you dangling. If you've made it this far, thanks for listening to my ramblings. Calling whatever this is ramblings is an insult to ramblers everywhere. Please share any refutations, opinions, accusations, japes, or other ideas in the comments below. Oh, I'll have a few. I hope your holiday season lived up to all your wildest expectations and your Christmas, or commensurate observation, was as merry as the days are short this time of year in my neck of the woods. And please join me next time for the first annual Juiciest Slice year-end retrospective. A fun time to be sure if there ever was one. Oh, are you kidding? You're in no place to be making guarantees. Hey, where did that axe go? What are you doing? I did warn you. I knew there was something wrong with you.
Naughty this!
And remember,
Christmas Eve is the scariest damn night of the year.
bye now.
Let's get out of here.
No. I'm beginning to like this picture.
It starts Monday morning.